Today, we're cracking open a 400-year-old masterpiece from the legendary samurai warrior Miyamoto Musashi. Now, I know what you might be thinking: swords, duels, ancient Japan. But this is so much more than that. It's a timeless guide to strategy and mastering yourself that, honestly, might be more relevant right now than ever before.
Musashi really said it best right here. He understood that the principles you use to win a duel, well, they're the exact same ones we can use to navigate life, business, you name it. For him, the sword was just a powerful metaphor for any tool you use to get something done. So that's really the big question we're tackling in this explainer. How can the wisdom of a guy who is undefeated in over 60 duels in feudal Japan give you an edge in your modern life? You'd be surprised how direct the answers are. So let's jump in.
All right, first up, strategy, the art of life. You see, for Musashi, strategy wasn't some rigid step-by-step checklist. No, it was way deeper than that. Think of it as a fluid, all-encompassing mindset for how you engage with the world. And to really see this in action, just look at the parallels here. Musashi wielded two swords to win his duels. A modern strategist, someone like Steve Jobs, wielded innovation to completely upend entire industries. The battlefield always changes, right? But the core principles of a winning strategy, they're absolutely timeless.
Musashi built his whole philosophy around these 5 rings, with each one tied to an element. This is the core of his entire framework. Earth is your foundation. Water is all about being adaptable. Fire is that decisive, intense action. Wind is knowing your competition. And the void, well, that one's the real game changer. And trust me, we'll get to it.
Okay, so we start with the Earth Ring, knowing your tools. This is all about the fundamentals, because before you can even dream about winning, Musashi says you have to master the very ground you're standing on. His analogy here is just perfect. Think about a master carpenter. They know their tools, the type of wood, and the blueprints inside and out. It's the same for a strategist. You have to have absolute clarity on your resources, your team, and the entire competitive landscape. This is the bedrock. Without it, everything else just falls apart.
All right, with a solid foundation in place, it's time to add some movement. And that brings us to the water and fire rings, the dynamic flow of action. They might seem like total opposites, but in strategy, they have to work in perfect harmony.
So, the way of water is about being formless, right? Being able to adapt to literally any situation that's thrown at you. A great strategist can pivot in an instant. But that has to be balanced by the way of fire, striking with focused, overwhelming intensity at just the right moment. One is about adapting, the other is about acting. You absolutely need both.
Okay, so you've got your foundation, you know your methods of action. But hey, you're not operating in a bubble. And this is where the wind ring comes in, knowing your enemy. It's all about understanding the strategies of others.
Musashi was convinced you can't truly master your own strategy until you deeply understand the strategies of your rivals. And this isn't just about knowing what moves they'll make, it's about seeing the flaws in their thinking. By studying the wind of these other schools, you actually sharpen your own blade.
And this slide just illustrates his point perfectly. Musashi saw other schools relying on gimmicks, like extra long swords or these flashy, overly complicated moves. But he argued that real strategy isn't about the weapon. It's about the warrior holding it. It's not about brute strength. It's about clear intent. And it's definitely not about complexity. It's about devastating simplicity.
And now, we've arrived at the final, and honestly, the most profound element. The void ring, or as Musashi called it, the clear mind. This is where strategy goes beyond just technique and becomes a whole state of being. So the void, which is known as shunyata in Buddhist philosophy, isn't about emptiness in a bad way. Not at all. It's about a mind that's so present, so totally clear of mental clutter and bias that it sees reality exactly as it is. When you're in this state, the right action just happens. It's natural, almost without any conscious thought. The easiest way for us to understand this today is through the concept of a flow state. Think of a surgeon in the middle of a complex operation, or an athlete who's completely in the zone. There's no fear, there's no hesitation. It's just pure, focused, intuitive action. Musashi taught that you cultivate this state through relentless training and mindfulness until your intuition can just take over.
So how do we pull all these rings together into something we can actually use? Well, Musashi's wisdom can be boiled down into a few core principles for mastery. And the first is all about the tools you carry with you, your two swords.
Here's the first huge takeaway. The long sword represents your knowledge, your theory. The short sword, on the other hand, is action and practice when the pressure is on. You can't win with just one. An expert who knows everything but can't perform when it counts, they're missing their short sword. A true master needs both, working together in perfect harmony.
And the amazing thing is, you can apply this framework to literally anything. If you're a student, water might be a flexible study schedule, while fire is that intense focus right before an exam. If you're in business, earth is about building your core product, while water is pivoting based on what your customers tell you. And the void, that's where true game-changing innovation comes from.
Now, beyond this idea of the two swords, Musashi laid out several very specific rules for living a strategic life. Let's dig into a couple more that really build on this idea of mastery. Okay, this next principle comes from Musashi's second rule, and really, it's the engine that drives all progress.
It's so simple, but so profound. The way is in training. Mastery doesn't come from knowing a little bit about everything. It comes from deep, relentless practice of one thing. It always reminds me of what Bruce Lee said. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. That's the heart of this rule.
And for our final principle, let's look at his seventh rule. This one is all about mastering your perspective.
This rule is all about perspective. A great strategist can zoom way out to see the long-term vision, those distant things, but they can also zoom right in to manage the immediate details without getting lost in the weeds. It's that incredibly rare ability to hold both the big picture and the tiny details in your mind at the same time.
You know, when you boil it all down, Musashi's message is that the greatest opponent you will ever face is yourself. It's your own biases, your own fears, your own limitations. The 5 rings give us a path not just to win battles, but to achieve true self-mastery. So the only question left is, where will you begin?